welcome back to the channel. This is MTG Ghouldu, and today I wanted to give you all a little tour of my Chainer Nightmare Adept deck. So Chainer is a 4 mana, 2 generic, a black and a red for a human minion. He's a 3/3 and he has the ability to discard a card. You may cast a creature spell from your graveyard this turn, activate only once each turn. And whenever a non-token enters the battlefield, if it wasn't cast from your hand, it gains haste until end of turn. So that means Chainer himself can come from the command zone onto the battlefield and swing as soon as he gets there, because he was not cast. So his trigger affects himself. Now I will go on ahead and say this is one of my more powerful decks. This is one that I play when people are like, it's near the end of the time, the shop's about to close, and we're just trying to ramp out one big game real quick. So, funny story about this deck. I actually built this because someone built a Anji deck themed around the same kind of thing, and I wanted to spite them because I don't know why, what made me want to, but it affected me for some weird reason, that I wanted to build Chainer to prove to them that this was just as good as Anji was. And this was back when the Madness deck was out with Anji as the front. So this is going to be a little bit one of those more pricey deck lists that I've built and that I have together. So to start it out with the ramp, we're going to go with Chrome Mox, Jeweled Lotus, Lotus Petal, Mana Crypt, Mox Amber, Mox Opal, because we're not going to have any problems getting that Metalcraft, a beautiful Soul Ring, a Mana Vault, a Dark Ritual, an Arcane Signet, a Mind Stone, a Rakdos Signet, Talisman of Indulgence, Thought Vessel, Felwar Stone. And here we get into our non-elemental, non-artifact ramp with Dockside Extortionist, Seething Song, and Simian Spirit Guide. So you can exile it whenever you're about ready to go with it. Most of the deck contains creature-based combos that rely on creatures. So let's go on ahead and get into some of those creatures. With Apprentice Necromancer, and because Chainer's ability doesn't care where it comes from, as long as it was coming from the graveyard, it gets to go. It gets to go and have fun on the first, as soon as it comes out. So anything that really just brings back a creature is pretty good in this deck. Dragon Rage Channeler for the Surveil. The Demon's Disciple is one of those cards that's kind of like a filler right now. It's still really good because you can constantly keep playing it back over and over again. Viscera Seer. Magus of the Will is one that I like to chain together just multiple times. Just keep finding a way to bring it back and wheeling everybody's hands away. Containment Construct was a new include from Kamigawa because it allows you, when you discard those cards, they kind of have their own madness effect with that, as long as you have that on the battlefield. Opposition Agent, because who doesn't like stealing somebody else's land drop? Dauthi Voidwalker to keep those other people that are trying to win with graveyard effects from winning the game. And here we get into the combos. I do have the Necrotic Ooze Kiki Jiki X combo in here, but I've taken it upon myself to try and add a couple more creatures to where it'll help me get that win a little bit quicker. So we have the Necrotic Ooze, that beautiful Kiki Jiki. And here are the creatures that I've put in the deck to help try and get those lines going a little bit faster. Death Cultist, when you sack it, you can make a target player lose a life and you gain a life because of the Kiki Ooze combo. As long as you have one of these creatures, you'll be able to do one of their effects from the graveyard, because Necrotic Ooze will have all activated abilities. The Sacrifice is an activated ability, so there you go. The Mog Fanatic and the Bile Urchin. This is a common from the original Kamigawa. doesn't see a lot of play. So I figured, you know what, why not? Let's give it a chance. And then to go along with the Kiki-Jiki, I have the Zealous Conscripts in the deck, just in case I can't, or all of the rest of my cards have been exiled. There's the Zealous Conscripts combo. And here's a cool little thing you can do. Because it has haste, it just goes, no matter where it comes from. Then I also have a Dualcaster Mage in the deck, so I can copy a Heat Shimmer or a Twin Flame. Now, not all the time are we going to be able to get those creatures out on cue with Chainer. Sometimes we need to bring them out a little bit easier. We're going to do that with a little bit of Reanimation. So we got Reanimate, Persist, Animate Dead, Stitch Together, Necromancy, and that's probably one of the my favorite arts in the deck, and Victimize, because we're going to have some creatures. Why not just go on ahead and swap some out for some other ones. So let's get into some of our card draw and card selection. Start off, we have Faithless Looting, Night's Whisper, Ransack the Lab, Cathartic Pyre, Cathartic Reunion, Faithless Salvaging, Thrill of Possibility, Tormenting Voice, Jessica's Will, and here we're coming into the pricier side of our card advantage with our tutors. Imperial Seal, Vampiric Tutor, Gamble, Demonic Tutor, Wishclaw Talisman, which is not really that fancy, but it's fancy enough for me. Buried Alive to help tutor those cards into the graveyard, because with those, just with Buried Alive, you can tutor all three of the Kiki-Jiki Ooze combo into the graveyard and be ready to go either that turn or next turn. And little did I know when I built this deck, I would be building it in true high power EDH fashion by throwing an Ad Nauseam into the deck. Not something I wanted, but I figured out real late in the game, before I turned it into this deck, before it shifted its focus into this deck, it wanted to be an Ad Naus deck. So there it is. It's in the deck, ready and willing. Now we're going to move on to our removal, starting with Slaughter Pact, Feed the Swarm for those pesky enchantments, Infernal Grasp, Toxic Deluge, Pyroblast, and Red Elemental Blast for those pesky blue spells, Tybalt's Trickery, Deflecting Swat. I would have the black free spell, but it's just something that I'm waiting to get later on whenever I get real settled into the deck. Terminate and Bedevil. And yes, I am thoroughly settled into the deck, but I'm trying to keep the funds up, because Magic cards do be expensive. And now we're going to run into our non-basic lands, starting out with an Ancient Tomb, going into Emergent Zone, Gyreet Sanitarium for some extra card draw, Crystal Vein. This is one that I've been high on forever because it's 2 colorless. You never know when you're going to need the 2 colorless. I mean, to me, it just seems like a really good card. It's a mana crypt for a turn, if you need it. Sulphurous Springs, Bojuka Bog to exile those pesky graveyards that aren't mine, Shadow Blood Ridge, and then we have 2 proxies, a Scalding Tarn and a Bloodstained Mire to help fetch out that cute little proxy Badlands and this Blood Crypt. We have a Blightstep Pathway, a Gemstone Caverns for the early game and any color mana, Mana Confluence for the any color mana, and you wouldn't have any deck without a command tower unless it was a monocolor deck. A gorgeous City of Brass, and then because this was one of those spite decks that I built, I really wanted to just be mean to everybody, so I ended up just throwing white border lands in there. But that has been Chainer Nightmare Adept. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I will see you guys next time in the graveyard.